sound.
Silence, you think-a-tons. I summoned you here because the world is about to end.
No, it isn't. What are you afraid of? Global warming? AI? Some sort of plague? Some sort of plague?
How you doing today, Lucy? Oh, pretty good. Scratching my back a little bit. Just kind of doing my thing. You know me, I'm all about the tacos and the kisses. And everyone else should be too. Hope you're doing well, locked up in your house under martial law, wherever you are. Kind of wondering when a few people might be getting a little tired of this. Just so you know, this will end when enough people say they don't want it anymore. And when I say, it could be various forms of showing that. But really, just like with anything, everything is actually in your own control. You create your own reality. Like for Lucy, her reality is tacos and kisses. And it still is. She doesn't care about all these things all these people are doing. And really, so should you. The unfortunate thing is that countless people have been basically nefariously mind controlled now for a long time, dumbed down via various means, whether it's fluoride in the water or government school systems, or could go on, and also really implanted on purpose with an idea that they have no power and someone else needs to save them. It's a very strong idea implanted in a lot of people. And for the most part, it's caused a lot of what we have today. Because if people understood what's going on and understood that they have an immense amount of power, every individual does. Certainly they have an immense amount of power in their own lives and how it goes and how they feel. As just one example, many people right now are feeling panic, fear, or even worse. They don't have to feel that way. It's their choice. Everything you feel is your choice. Most people don't realize that. There goes Lucy after some birds. Almost. I'll get one of these days. But of course, no one's told that that is even possible, to actually be in control of your feelings. Quite the opposite, actually. And everything in today's Western world, I'm not talking, there's a lot of people who are still really good. They're mostly detached from our sort of world today. They live in tribes or in the middle of the forest somewhere, or maybe a Tibetan monastery to some extent. And they're not like most of us have been. But it's really, well, there's so many things going on. I obviously can't give all the solutions in a few minutes here, but it's really about people taking control of their own lives again. And realizing no one, no government, certainly no central bank, no government agency like the FDA is gonna take care of you. No one's coming back to save you. It's all about you doing that work and saving yourself. When I say saving, I don't mean like, saving your life, for example. In fact, this life isn't really all that real. It's just an experience. But if you want to have a better experience, really you need to start detaching from all these systems. And really what is going on with this coronavirus, basically what it is what you call the elitists or globalists, whatever you want to call them, basically blackmailing and extorting the entire world. And what they're saying is, if you want to keep a lot of the stuff that we've created, which are like banks, oh, there's another bird, almost Lucy, the money system, if you want to keep using those little green pieces of paper with a pyramid with an all-seeing eye on the back of it, I don't know if you ever noticed that. It's because you've been hypnotized. Like Mark Twain said, the hardest thing is proving to a man he's been fooled. It's easier to fool a man. I, of course, butchered the quote. I always do. But it's something like that. And basically what they're saying is, if you guys want to keep living under basically our slave system, which a lot of people do, you have to adhere to everything we say now, or we're not going to bring it back, is basically what they're saying. We'll basically keep you in your houses forever. We got they've been stealing your money for decades or centuries. They've got trillions of dollars. They've got all the tanks. And by the way, tanks are rolling out all over the US right now. I think Richie from Boston, he's got a great channel, had a few on. I'll try to throw those up. Lucy ven. That's my girl. Yeah, it's my girl. Muy bien. If you want to get your pension, if you want to get your social security, you have to get chipped. You have to be basically enslaved for the rest of your life, live a very meager existence, but they will bring it back for you if you do all those things. And that's exactly what's going on right now. Now, some people want to do it. A lot of people, actually. That's great. Go ahead and do it. But there's a lot of people like me who don't want anything to do with this stuff. We are moving away from their systems in every single way right now. We've even been creating our own systems to get rid of their systems. That's things like cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Monero. Lucy's having a great time. Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. Let's go find some more birds. Everything is a choice that you can make. You don't have to be living in fear right now. I'm not. Lucy's not. And a big part of that is we actually know what's going on. They say the truth will set you free. And it does. When you know what's going on, there's no reason to fear. You just decide if you want to go along with it or move away from it. And my choice has been quite clear. Yeah, me too. Screw those guys. And the way that you know what's going on is you pay attention and you actually work on finding out what's happening. And really, when you do a lot of work on yourself as well, through whatever, there's different words for it. They all mean the same thing basically at the end. It's just different ways that people describe it. Meditation, praying, even therapy, stuff like that. Figuring out, getting all the garbage out of your head that's been programmed. Then it's very easy to use something called discernment. A lot of people say, how do you know what's happening so quickly all the time? I'm like, and not to say I'm always right, by the way. I'm sure I'm wrong on some stuff. So many things going on, it's impossible to be right on everything. But I'm usually quite on the right track. And people wonder how, and I'm like, I've been doing the work on myself for a long time. Looking into everything. Not to say everyone on earth needs to do that. But as long as you at least pay attention to what's going on, what's really going on. and continue to work on yourself, you will be able to see what's going on quite a bit easier too. Basically, most people are brainwashed slaves. They are, to use another way of putting it, they are the red-pilled people or the blue-pilled people in the Matrix. They have not taken the red pill yet. So anyway, there's a lot of craziness going on for sure. And basically what I think now, and this changes every day, so stay tuned, subscribe to this channel. It'll probably change tomorrow as I get more information. This is a multi-pronged terror attack by the elites with so many facets to it. The least of which is an actual dangerous virus. That's actually completely fake in my opinion. Because you can't transmit viruses, so it's just fake. But they may be doing certain operations. They've got trillions of dollars. They pulled off everything over history. Pulled off all of 9/11. Most people didn't even notice who really did it. A lot of people do now, but that took like 20 years. And still no one's really doing anything about it. No. See, if you don't do anything, why would you expect anything to change? But this is a multi-pronged, incredibly intricate PSYOP plus CIA operation in general. And so people are like, well, why is this happening there? Why is that happening there? They're probably pulling off so many different things right now. This is their time. They just printed up $6 trillion basically for themselves while everyone cheered it. So they're making a ton more money. They have the opportunity now to use this excuse to do so many things. So as one example, if they have some people they want to take out in Iran, they might take them out using various means. Probably not a virus because those aren't transmittable, but could be some sort of a directed energy weapon, or they have guns that could create cancer in people. Like, these guys have been taking all your money for lifetimes and creating all this stuff to destroy you. I don't know if you noticed that. And so in a place like New York, kind of funnily enough, I said for years I would not want to be in New York for this next crisis that they're planning. And that looks like it's one of the worst places right now. Although not a lot of people in hospitals, but the people who are seem to have some very strange symptoms. And what they could be in New York is, it's possible they said, okay, let's use the 5G here to target some people. And they'll be targeting lots of people, by the way, and say it's all COVID. So here's something I found, and I don't know who these people are. I didn't really look into it, but it looks pretty legitimate what this guy's saying about how he's working in a lab and they took away his Geiger counter and all these guys with guns came in right before a lot of people started getting sick in New York. So I'll play the video now.
This is my work ID. I work for Well Cornell Medicine on 68th in York. I do comparative pathology research. We deal with biohazardous materials and radiation particles. We inject animals like rhesus monkeys, rats, and mice with diseases and radioactive agents. 2 weeks ago when I went to work, I noticed the security guards were in Tyvek hazmat suits and they were armed, which is not normal, but I didn't pay it any mind. I go upstairs to work, I clock in. My boss is like, yo, listen, you're not needed, but we need you to surrender your Geiger counter. My Geiger counter was attached to my ID because we deal with radiation emissions in my department on the 7th floor, which is the only department that deals with radiation. But they wanted me to surrender my Geiger counter. When I left work, the only people that were left in my building's facility were the scientists, the professors, the researchers, and security guards that were armed. It's not the virus that's getting people sick. It's 5G network from the radiation. And the reason why they have me surrender my Geiger counter is so if I'm in a proximity of people that have 5G networks, my Geiger counter is going to detect that I'm in a proximity of radiation. That's what's getting people sick. That's what's getting people with respiratory issues. That's why some people are dying. Now, my homie works for Verizon. He got a message via email from corporate instructing him and his 100-man crew to pump 5G network cables throughout the tri-state area, whether buildings or houses were abandoned or not. The letter said, if your crew gets sick, we'll send them home and you keep on working. Don't worry, when they say that the oil is short, you'll be first dibs to get the oil.
The oil to cure.
Exactly.
Look at the rates going up with people with coronavirus. Now, how they diagnosing all these people when they say they ain't got no test?
That have the coronavirus?
Right or wrong?
Facts. Yo, you know what's crazy? The symptoms that they're saying is caused by this virus are the same exact symptoms from radiation contamination. They're talking about loss of taste, loss of smell, hair loss, vomiting, diarrhea. Pretty soon they're going to say a new symptom is blood in your stool and blood in your urine, constant parchness, that you'll have an unquenchable thirst, because radiation boils the water molecules in your brain, in your respiratory tract, and in your reproductive system. So don't be surprised when this shit disappears and 10 years later it comes back, because that's what's going to happen. You're sterile and you can't produce.
So like I said, I don't know who these people are. Could be totally wrong. But here's a doctor in a New York emergency room, basically, or ICU. Now, again, I haven't totally looked this up. You know, there's so much information coming in. I'm basically reporting live. I'm like Anderson Cooper reporting live, except I'm telling you the truth, or at least a lot closer to the truth. I'm trying to tell you the truth. He's doing the exact opposite. And apparently this ICU doctor in New York said, this doesn't look anything like what they said it was. He said he was told that coronavirus, which doesn't even exist, gives people pneumonia, of which 2 million people die per year of pneumonia, by the way. So anyone who has pneumonia, they're like, that's coronavirus. Oh my gosh, 2 million people dead. We better lock down the world. All a scam, all pre-planned pandemic. But he was saying it looks a lot more like altitude poisoning or some sort of poisoning. And that goes right with what I've been saying. That I think in some parts, they are using some 5G to make people sick. And that's what those last guys were talking about. And here's the doctor. I'll just play a little bit of this. We'll have the link to it down below if you want to watch the whole thing. And he's basically saying, this doesn't look like anything like what they say COVID is. It looks more like poisoning. And that's probably what it is. And it's probably an operation in New York, because what they have to do, I'll play the video in a second here, but what they have to do is have some areas where people actually are dying, and maybe even really horrible deaths, to panic the whole world into doing whatever they want. So maybe they're doing that in New York, maybe with 5G. I'll play this doctor, a few minutes of it right here.
This is Dr. Cameron Kyle Seidel, ER and critical care doctor from New York City. 9 days ago, I opened an intensive care unit to care for the sickest COVID-positive patients in this city. In these 9 days, I have seen things I have never seen before. In treating these patients, I have witnessed medical phenomenon that just don't make sense in the context of treating a disease that is supposed to be a viral pneumonia. 9 days ago, I presumed I was opening an intensive care unit to treat patients with a virus causing a pneumonia that was ravaging lungs across the world, starting out as something mild, a cough, a sore throat, and progressively increasing in severity until ultimately ending in something called acute respiratory distress syndrome, or ARDS. This is the paradigm that every hospital in the country is working under. This is the disease, ARDS, that every hospital is preparing to treat. And this is the disease, ARDS, for which in the next 2 to 6 weeks, 100,000 Americans might be put on a ventilator. And yet, everything I've seen in the last 9 days, all the things that just don't make sense, the patients I'm seeing in front of me, the lungs I'm trying to improve, have led me to believe that COVID-19 is not this disease, and that we are operating under a medical paradigm that is untrue. In short, I believe we are treating the wrong disease, and I fear that this misguided treatment will lead to a tremendous amount of harm to a great number of people in a very short time. As New York City appears to be about 10 days ahead of the country, I feel compelled to get this information out. COVID-19 lung disease, as far as I can see, is not a pneumonia and should not be treated as one. Rather, it appears as some kind of viral-induced disease, most resembling high-altitude sickness. It is as if tens of thousands of my fellow New Yorkers are on a plane at 30,000 feet and the cabin pressure is slowly being let out. These patients are slowly being starved of oxygen. I have seen patients dependent on oxygen take off their oxygen and quickly progress through a state of anxiety and emotional distress and eventually get blue in the face. And while they look like patients absolutely on the brink of death, they do not look like patients dying of pneumonia. I have never been a mountain climber, and I do not know the conditions at base camp below the highest peaks in the world. But I suspect that the patients I'm seeing in front of me look most like as if a person was dropped off on the top of Mount Everest without time to acclimate. I don't know the final answer of this disease, but I'm quite sure that a ventilator is not it. That is not to say that we don't need ventilators. We absolutely need them. They are the only way at this time that we're able to give a little more oxygen to patients who need it. But when we treat people with ARDS, we typically use ventilators to treat what's called respiratory failure. That is, we use the ventilator to do the work that the patient's muscles can no longer do because they're too tired to do it. These patients' muscles work fine. I fear that if we are using a false paradigm to treat a new disease, that the method that we program the ventilator, one based on a notion of respiratory failure as opposed to oxygen failure, that this method, and there are a great many number of methods we can use with the ventilator, but this method being widely adopted at this very moment in every hospital in the country, which aims to increase pressure on the lungs in order to open them up, is actually doing more harm than good. And that the pressure we are providing to lungs, we may be providing to lungs that cannot stand it, that cannot take it, and that the ARDS that we are seeing, that the whole world is seeing, may be nothing more than lung injury caused by the ventilator.
Now, one thing that we could do, I wish there was like an independent journalist in the New York area who would go out and investigate some of these things. I know of one, but he's hiding and he believes the government propaganda. Maybe watching too much television programming. It's too bad because actually a lot of other people are doing his job with the film Your Hospital hashtag. People are doing it every day. And almost every hospital they go to is it's a ghost town. It's empty. During a plandemic. But like I said, maybe in New York, because these guys are incredibly, look at all the things they pulled off in 9/11. They pulled off knocking down 3 buildings with 2 planes, which is impossible, at free fall speed, which is impossible. They obviously had a controlled demolition of the buildings. In New York, they also faked a plane hitting the pentagram. There's no evidence of a plane, but they blew up the accounting department where they just announced $2.3 trillion was missing. Everyone forgot about that right away. And they faked a plane going down in Shanksville. Then there was no plane there. And still people believe them because they watch the programming, the television programming. It's literally mind control. On top of that, they did all these anthrax scares. They had everyone. It was just like this, basically. They had the whole world scared. So they do these things. So they're probably like rolling out some sort of poison in one area, doing some 5G attacks on some people in this area, getting enough people sick in certain areas that people panic. So I think we'll see, but that's generally what's going on. So we're going to see lots and lots of this. And one way, getting back to, I wish there was a journalist in New York, a real one, who would actually go out and document stuff. One easy way to tell if there's 5G radiation that's really intense going on in New York right now, they're higher than normal because they can actually ramp up the amounts they do. It's basically like a weapon. It can be used as a weapon. They can ramp it up to just kill people, zap them if they want. And at one point, that's what it's going to be, is they will know every single person walking down the street if you decide to stay in their system. So if you've got a smartphone, I still do, but not probably for much longer, now that they're doing all this stuff. And if you stay in their areas, their major cities and all that, they will know every single person walking down the street. They'll know everything about them, and they'll just zap them every now and then. And people go, oh, must be that virus that keeps happening. But one way is people in New York could do some radiation meter counts. Now, I don't know if they just turned it on for a short period of time or or not. This is stuff we're gonna have to figure out over the next few months and years probably. But if we could get some radiation readings there right now, it might give us some clues as to what's going on. So this is a multi-pronged, sort of a blackmail, extortion, terrorist attack by the elites. And a lot of this is to give people the coming vaccine, or even any vaccine really. Now here's a weird one, and again, I have not fully looked into this. In Dallas, a man they said had COVID. He looks perfectly fine. What a surprise. Everyone I've ever seen, they're laughing, they're smiling. I don't know if you've ever had the flu. If I have the flu, I'm gonna look like crap. I'm not gonna be laughing and smiling. I'm gonna be puking and sweating and in my bed. Guy looks totally fine, and all these guys come in, including one incredibly fat cop. They couldn't even fit the poncho over him, to forcibly inject him with what they said, and again, I haven't looked into this, I'll have the link to it down below. Maybe you guys can do research on it. And forcibly inject him with a COVID vaccine, which doesn't even exist. But it is, if this is true, pretty shocking video. I'll play just a couple minutes of it here.
You can't force me to do anything. You can't force me to do anything. I asked for a lawyer, brother. You can't do that. If y'all gonna try to quarantine me or whatever, you can't force me to put anything in my arm. You cannot do that. It doesn't work like that.
Gotta do a workup on you, dude.
It doesn't work like that.
But you're sick, man.
But it doesn't work like that. How do you know I'm sick? You haven't even done a test on me. I'm a man now. Okay, I'm listening.
So the doctors talked to you. They did not feel like you have the capacity to make medical decisions based off their discussion with you. And so
how do I not have that?
That's the
I'm a grown man now. How do I not have the capacity? I felt like I was sick.
Okay, and then
I felt like I was sick.
We're the people that can help you.
Okay, but y'all not put a needle in my arm. It doesn't work like that.
Okay, well,
you can't make me do something against my will. That is not right. I'm a man. We will tear this bitch up right now, bro.
Come on, James.
We will tear this bitch up right now, bro. Don't do that, bro. I'm telling you, bro. I don't want no shot, bro. Y'all gave me shots when I was a kid. I'm a man now, bro. I'm different. I know the difference. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I will tear this bitch up. Don't not mess with me, y'all. Please.
Come on, James.
Please, I'm asking you, I'm begging you, brother.
I know,
Black man, I'm begging you, bro.
I'm
begging you, bro. Please leave me alone.
On the bed, then.
Please leave me alone. Please leave me alone.
They can give you a shot right here on the chair.
Please leave me alone. Please leave me alone, bro.
Not until you get on the bed.
I'm not getting on that bed.
Man, help me out, bro.
It doesn't work like that, bro. Anybody know a lawyer, bro? Somebody send me a lawyer? Bro, no!
Come on, James.
It don't work like that, man. This shit ain't right, man. Don't put the phone down now, motherfucker. Nah, bro, leave me alone. I don't want no needle in my arm. It don't work like that. No, it does not work like that, bro. No. Y'all need to change mental health awareness, mental health help, all that, man. No.
Come on.
No. Come on. Bro, get your motherfucking hands on me, bro. You don't work like that, bro. I would tear this bitch up, nigga, on my mama, nigga.
Yeah, but nobody wants to do
Get off me!
Come on, James.
Get off me, bro!
I know you're crazy.
You don't work like that. I'm not crazy. You crazy white man. Leave me alone, bro.
I didn't say you were crazy.
Yeah, you did.
I said you were maybe afraid. I understand
I'm not scared of nothing, bro. I'm not scared of doubt, bro. Please leave me the fuck alone, bro. It don't work like that, bro. You know. Y'all weak in the bitch.
Wait, right here. James, come on. Come on, bro.
You know.
Stop. Relax.
You choking me.
I'm not choking you.
You choking me, bro.
Stop.
You're choking me, bro.
Stop.
Help!
Stop.
Help, man. This shit ain't right, bro.
Stop.
This ain't right. All right. It's gonna be a revolution now. Y'all don't even know how to start. Y'all put that in motion. Yeah. Shit got to change in America, bro. This is not right, man. This is not right, bro.
Welcome to your future. That's what it's going to look like. If you don't want this stuff, they're going to try to force it on you. That's why it's so important to get outside of all their systems. Stop using their banks, stop using their money, stop working in their systems. Basically just live like a very plain life, really. Live on a farm or in an area where you can grow a garden. Just make enough that you don't need a lot of money at that point. But just, make whatever through the black market, through things like crypto, stuff like that. And just remove yourself from the system. A lot of people are going to go down with this, and I mean a lot. A lot of people want it. We put the guy in the video yesterday, he's holding up his "I just got chipped" shirt. He's like, I feel a little nervous, but really excited about it. Yeah, it's going to be a whole new world for you. Welcome to the camps. One thing that is very concerning, and this is what I've said since this started, is this going to have such massive economic repercussions, having 3 billion people or more locked down in their houses right now. They can't work, they're not allowed outside of their house. Eso my girl, muy bien. Lucy's really good with cars, by the way. She knows to get out of the way. Plus, everyone drives like super slow here. So, the big sort of thing that no one's talking about right now, and this was what was reported in the Rockefeller lockstep documents where they planned this out in 2010. Is anyone kind of angry at the Rockefeller family right now? A little bit? No? Okay. Keep going. Carry on with your slavery. There is potentially massive food shortages coming, and it's because everything's being locked down. I found a video from this channel. I'll put up just a couple minutes of it. But he does a really good job of going over all of basically the information about how most places are just shutting down their food production, or at least their transportation of food. And this has massive repercussions. So I'll play this now.
And the media keeps taking this crisis as, look how much demand is dropping, that's great, there's so much food, there's no fertilizer shortages, it's awesome, we live in this perfect world. This chart should frighten you right here. Commodity futures prices are collapsing everywhere across the agricultural landscape, and it's not why you're thinking it is. It's because farmers cannot get the produce to the consumers. We saw this in China, we're seeing it here. The lockdowns are stopping transportation on a global level for food and farming. Widespread shortages and food price spikes are imminent moving forward through the summer. Very few continents or countries are planting on time. Also, when it's coming into harvest time across the planet at the moment in the transition of seasons, the labor force is not there to get into the fields, harvest, or planting. Too few truckers to move the goods, air freight capacity collapsed. Fresh produce that you expect from other places, going, gone. Reefer containers or refrigerated containers, they're all over in China. This is a logistical nightmare. So look past the distraction of you getting your $1,200 to when you're not going to eat. U.S. fruit and vegetable producers are bracing for dramatic disruptions. Perhaps I should have put quotes around that. But following on, a squeeze in migrant labor, that's the cornerstone of food production, is not there any longer. Across the globe, travel limits. Oh, an unintended consequence, no food for the planet. Well, that was planned anyway with this grand solar minimum. Now I'm wondering, is this the excuse to cover for the grand solar minimum food crop losses? Maybe it is, because here off of Bloomberg, labor and trucking woes stand in the way of ample global food supply. Did you see this on your news, or did they say you distracting with your $1,200? Hampering the flow of food, imbalance in the supply chain from Canada to China, everywhere in between, Argentina, and it is all-encompassing. From farm to table, grain terminals, all disrupted. Grocery chains, frenzied buying, disrupted. Warehouses, disrupted. Trucks, rails, shipping, ports, all disrupted. The food supply of our planet moving from point A to point B. Great excuse for the shortages. Instead of the grand solar minimum, it's going to be something else. 400-year cycles in the sun are too inconvenient to explain to you on the populace of this planet because you might freak out that there's not much you can do except grow your own food. And also the meat, cattle, and poultry industries crushed with the lack of labor. U.S. hog farmers are committed to maintaining the food supply chain. But the pork supply is moving ahead with quote-unquote looming challenges. No labor, no food. You have your own two hands, your neighbors, your neighborhood. You have to grow your own food. And off of farm futures, dairy farmers know where to send their milk. Cattle ranchers reeling from plummeting beef prices. You know why? Schools, restaurants, and universities were the main purchasers of these items. Now with everything closed, and the plants themselves to process your food are starting to ripple through the supply chain. So when you see empty supermarket shelves and the milk section shuttered in your stores, the business media calls it a supply chain adaptation challenge. As well, Farm Futures, thank you for pointing this out, bringing it to our attention. U.S. food production is vital to national security, just as with medical supplies. This is the 50,000-pound elephant in the room that nobody's talking about. We need to get on this right now. Southern Hemisphere, you might think, well, not going to be too affected down there. It's super sparse in population. Well, look what's happening in Argentina. The biggest soy producers are having very difficult time because of the logistical bottlenecks and local transport restrictions with the grain supplies trying to reach the ports. 70 municipalities all locked down. Nobody can move across the municipality lines, if you will. So this is bringing the harvest to a standstill. They're finding the same thing, moving people, trucks, tractors to these warehouse facilities, and everything in between is disrupted, and they can't even get it to the ports now that it's harvested and in process of harvest. Early harvest going on. Give it another 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, and they're going to be right in the middle of the harvest. Again, quote, fending off a slew of logistical hurdles. And that's by port and by rail and truck. But when we look what's happening with the upending of the global food supply chain, now these descriptive words that they're using here, logistical nightmares, upending, destruction of, should give you a very clear indication that how many news journals are covering this, but it's not in the average news that's being put on at 6:30 or 6 p.m. for the regular news watcher to find this information. Off of U.S. News World Reports here, an example out of South America, Brazilian exports have dropped 80%. This has cut deeply into the capacity to move fresh produce over long distances. So you're going to watch things dry up, and we're going to go back to a more seasonal diet like our ancestors used to.
So yeah, that's going to get crazy. So as you can see here in Mexico, not all that crazy really. People just doing whatever. People don't care about all the laws here. It's great. Much more comfortably being in New York City right now, I'll bet. And yeah, so this could get very, very interesting in the next couple of weeks. They actually planned for this in the lockstep document, saying they're going to come out with a virus. They're going to use it, a supposed virus. It's sort of like this, the idea of a virus, try to enslave everyone in the world, get them all under martial law, institute a top-down authority everywhere, tyrannical authority, stand up to citizen basically unhappiness. That's what all those tanks are for, by the way. So yeah, good luck fighting those tanks. And that's they want to stop what they call global supply lines. And that's what we're seeing now. So everything in that scenario that they put in the 2010 Rockefeller report is playing out right now. And they're even doing so many insane things, like And as I was saying, basically Walmart and Amazon are beneficiaries of what's going on. What a surprise. This is basically a globalist terrorist attack, like I said. And they're now saying in some places, not here in Mexico yet, and not to mention there's so many sort of farms and there's not much government here, so we should be fine, but they're saying you can't buy certain items. They're calling them unessential or non-essential items. And here's an image from Walmart saying that you can't buy these like corn and stuff. How is food not essential? Well, when you're basically a globalist psychopath, it isn't really, not for the slaves. And every government's doing different things to really just make this all worse. That's all they're doing. In Australia, for example, the government said trucks can only come in a few times a week, and it caused basically the grocery stores to sell out. Is there any reason for that? Well, of course there is. Oh my gosh, guys, it's coronavirus. Better shut the whole world down. Put everyone into concentration camps. Yes, every government's got its own little way. In the Philippines, and this guy's a true, he's not even hiding he's a psychopath. The president has come out. And basically a lot of people in the Philippines, there are a lot of poor people. And they subsist basically day to day. They might make $1 or $2 a day doing something. And that's basically what they spend on their food, and that's it. And they do the same thing the next day. They've actually demanded everyone lock down, and it's already causing problems. Like I said, within a day, this will happen in the US in a couple of weeks, because most people have at least a little bit of stuff in their house, but it's not like that in the Philippines. And so some people are coming out and they're like, we're starving. Well, they're not starving within one day, obviously, but they feel like they're starving, like they need some food. And the president came out and said he wants all the police to shoot them on sight. So remember all these people who call themselves militia, say they're patriots. Some of them might even say they're freedom fighters, but they're obviously not, because a lot of them have thin blue line flags on their truck. And whenever anyone mentions to them about, at some point the troops are just going to come in and start killing everybody, they always go, no, our own people wouldn't do that. Who are these people in the Philippines? That's their people. And they do it by basically mind controlling and brainwashing the police and the troops into believing that these people are the bad people who are going to hurt others, so kill them. And the people like the politicians, they're the good ones, so don't kill them. It's the exact opposite. So spread this information, maybe some people will wake up. More people will wake up, the more this world changes. But don't wait for anyone to save you. It's going to be up to you. And they're rolling in the tanks right now in the US. I don't know how far they're going to take this. It's really going to depend on people waking up right now, sharing these videos, sharing information about how all the hospitals are empty, about how this information is all lies. Now, they will do certain things. They will do terror attacks all over the place to make you believe that it's real. That's what they do. They are the man behind the curtain in The Wizard of Oz. But don't believe hardly any of it. If it's on the mainstream media, that's them. That's propaganda. If you have a television and you actually watch CNN, you're being completely mind controlled and brainwashed every single day with propaganda, which is not true. How many times do we need to see this? It's clearly, and this is proven, it's just propaganda. It's not the free market media. Those guys get all shut off of YouTube. That's the free market media. That's who you should be looking for. So we'll see what happens. If enough people start waking up, we can kind of roll this back at least a little bit, and we'll see what happens. But they're not going to stop. Basically, these elites will do anything to enslave and destroy the entire world, actually. Anything. And I mean literally anything. And the only way that you can stop them is by waking up and walking away from their systems and spreading information and getting other people to understand this information. So like I said, please like, subscribe, share down below wherever you're watching. If you're not on BitChute and LBRY yet, please get over there because I can't believe we're still on here. And we've got tons of great information on how to survive and prosper through this. We've been doing this for 10 years. We're getting ready for this. We knew generally this was coming. And there's already thousands of people who've already got a much better life. They've walked away. They're doing so much better by walking away from this entire system. They're living in safer places. They're not being enslaved as much. They're making their income outside of the system. You can get access to all that, plus all of our information, all our advice, all our investment strategies, tons of books. If you're new to Bitcoin, we've got a book on Bitcoin for beginners or something like that, I think it's called. I forget, we have so many books. So you can just subscribe at dollarvigilante.com/subscribe. And really what it is start to wake up. It's time for everyone to wake up and realize what is going on. And one great thing about this is that with what they're doing, and we have the internet still, there's going to be a lot of people realizing what's going on here very soon, and it's going to get very, very interesting. So stay tuned here. We'll see what happens. If you're sitting at home by yourself, do that work. Do you work on your physical, your mental, your spiritual in various ways. There's different ways, they have different meaning, different words for the same thing. Pray, meditate, all that kind of stuff. Try to get connected to source. And you can only do that by clearing out your physical, a lot of things like fasting, your mental, getting all the programming out. That's things like meditation and, there's my boxer. Hey, Lara. So anyway, I'll leave it there. Lara, where are you going? It's not. That's my girl. That's my Osha. Muy bien, Lara. What do you think, Lucy?
You know me. Let's get some tacos. I got the kisses.
Wait, this video just scratched the surface. The attacks from big government and central banks are just starting. To survive today's economic chaos, you need to understand topics ranging from Bitcoin and cryptocurrency to the latest misinformation from the Federal Reserve, what the central banks are up to, and how big government is encroaching on your life. Subscribe to this channel now, and don't forget to click the bell beside the subscribe button to make sure you never miss a single video. Take responsibility for your own future and make your personal world a better place. Share this video with your friends and subscribe now. We're all in this together.